Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you back from our lunch. And as a reminder, if you are getting CEUs or SBCEUs, the sign-in sheet is out at the table. If you haven't done that, you won't earn your credits. And at 2, I think we have a coffee and tea service next door. And there will be some little snacks and things. If in case you didn't get enough to eat at lunch, there are also some extra box lunches. So we've purchased the food, so please feel free to take an extra one, even if it's for on the road. So, all right.
And I can take a basket.
That's right.
Well. So in between, I ask people, how are we going? Do I lose track with you or contact or whatsoever? So if so, you tell me. I know sometimes it's pretty heavy stuff, particularly when you are parents or deeply involved teachers and see things hopefully a little bit in better perspective. One of the things I put up is the slides. As I said, as your take-home message, you cannot overestimate the enormous impact the amygdala has on our behaviors. It plays up and with sensory deprived person differently than with non-sensory deprived. That's at least what we know. And this top is the amygdala of persons, non-handicapped persons, in the scanner, and they show on their goggles angry faces. And they show angry fighting sceneries, small clips, 10 seconds of people after each other, etc. And you see what enormous impact this has on our fight or fly system, the amygdala. And then you can do it different way. There's a hormone called oxytocin, and that's called the cuddle hormone. It is what mothers do when their child is anxious. They say, I'm not going to demonstrate on you, but just because you have a country, you watch out, you know. Is that not called harassment in your country? I don't want to do that. I don't want to give a demonstration of that. Yeah. See, but what you do with your little one, when he's anxious, you cuddle. You cuddle. And one of the mothers I spoke to, I hold him. When he's anxious, I hold him. So physiologically, you're bringing down, you release in his brain a hormone called oxytocin. You release that by cuddling. And that damps, plays down on the amygdala. And you see, after 5 minutes of cuddling, or even seeing in the scanner a loved person cuddling, you or another, it has already effect on your excitement. Well, if it's not, you have questions about your relationship, as you can understand. But that's actually what you are doing to lower anxiety in children. You talk to them gently, you speak to them, and you can say, can you buy that at the chemist? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And experiments are going on with autistic people, I'll come back to that as well, you with high level of anxiety, having bad experiences, to distribute for at regular time during the day that hormone to lower that alertness of the amygdala. But the most natural thing is we do together, we cuddle, we hold, we talk, we smile. So, once you're doing this, what you're doing, ma'am, as you say, I'm producing oxytocin in order to release the activity of his amygdala. I said, very good, you passed the test. But actually, that's what you're doing when you lower anxiety in the person. And can be shown. It can be shown, as I have selected this picture for you. Ah. But don't I know that man? Don't I know that man? You can understand now why in some children with charge, when there is, because of facial deformity, when there is a mismatch, getting the pleasurable, reassuring signal from your face that it's not working. The reduction of amygdala is not being effective in these persons. So, you feel that your natural, as a mother or an intervener, or your natural gift to lower anxiety in your child is missing. You cannot produce that hormone in your student, and you feel that because the eye gaze responding to the twitches subconsciously of the faces, we know that now how it works, it's not working. So when it's not working, you try harder. You try harder, you try harder, and said, I am with you, I'm your mother, I'm your teacher, please be quiet. But instead of lowering, you raise anxiety. And that's particular in children with whose face you have difficulties to read. And you feel as a failure, and you clap the child because you are so frustrated. Mismatch of the emotional status, I can understand very well how that leads to frustration, not producing in the child's body what you want to reproduce, the opposite truth. You might boost adrenaline, and instead of calming down the child attacks you. And you feel as a parent very, very incompetent, sad, and you say, you go away. You activate, during the development, the visual mirror neural system. When I smile, you smile. When I frown, you frown. And you immediately respond. But when there is either CVI or a visual impairment or nothing at all, these visual mirror neurons do not develop. Or at least not to the degree we would like to. So, in visual impairment, you have a hard time getting that mirror system going. Difficult to read the child's face, and difficulty in comforting the child. Here is the essence of the crying babies. They are here. Crying babies are here. It's not a matter of wrong handling and and not. It's here that the mother of a crying baby is not able to trigger mutual mirror neurons in them. And with all the modern equipment you can videotape now, tape now, analyze, we'll see that meeting the eyes, but miss. So that parent has not the skill, because lack of visual mirror functioning, to release that cuddling, that nice hormone in the child. So that's a neurophysiological thing. And of course it has a psychological thing, because you feel hopeless as a mother. It is terrible. And then the nurse comes, who is trained or has it, and she puts the kid to bed. My gosh. 20-year-old nurse. Yeah. Can it be? Yes. Can be done. Sometimes things can easily be done. Easily be done. In one session. In one session. This whole mirror neural system is connected via the insula with the limbic system. This is the second part I planned very well. An exciting discovery. And as I said, I keep working on this presentation, adding, and I had a question mark on that. Now, this is a nice picture. When you see somebody grabbing a cup, in your brain you're grabbing the cup as well. Interesting, isn't it? In your brain it looks like grabbing the cup. This what I like. And we'll get to see a child, Isaac, we have Isaac. And Isaac is doing yesterday, Jennifer has already put it out later on. Isaac was doing things he cannot do. Yeah? Very much young, involved charge kid. And he was sitting on the mother's lap. And you will see that. And I was doing this, swaying my body. Of course, they have no balance system at all. So, but you will see, he was swaying on his mother's lap. A charge kid. Can I do that? And enjoying it. And I will think on the drummer boy. This is a beautiful experiment of toddlers and on Tomasello, Kirchner. It was an experiment, and these toddlers had to drum along with the experimenter, person to person. The thing is, children of that age have physiologically no motor control to drum slower than 75 beats per minute. They can do that. We've been told. Okay. Then the second thing, that there was a machine drumming and they had to drum along the machine, but they saw only the sticks moving. Yeah? And in the third experiment, there was a radio or a loudspeaker. They did not see a person, they don't see the stick, only they heard the thing going. Now, you watch the results of these experiments. When the child drummed along with a person he was able to follow, even when the tempo was lower than 75 beats. That's impossible. Impossible. They don't have motor. Yes. With face to face with a person. Did I call that in the old days coactive? Still the key, they could do that. When they saw no person, they followed the law of physiology. They could not, when the beat went slower and slower, they confused. And when the radio was there, they could not lower the beats. So, from person to person, we can do more things than our body allows us to do. Think about that. That explains yesterday this little boy behaviors, as we will put up in a minute. It seems, and I should have printed this in bold, that in the personal contact, and you pay attention together what's happening, the joint attention explains the arithmetical synchronization. So in a personal contact, you go beyond your physical possibilities. Okay. That's the auditorial mirror neuron system. Took a long time before they localized them. So, in hearing, we can synchronize with each other. Here it starts with 1992, University of Padua, and they went to the zoo and they put electrodes on the scalp of those guys. And you see one is manipulating things, breaking sticks and so forth, and the other one is watching. So, with the EEG readings, they saw, and with further than that, with a type of brain imaging, it was noticed that the same frontal part of the guy watching was involved as he doing the job. So when you see somebody sawing, hammering, you hammer yourself. When you really are involved, what is he doing? He's really scraping. Your brain is scraping. So you mirror an activity in your brain. The same thing. With this, the whole thing started. Another monkey performing action, a set of premotor neurons appear to respond in both animals. Rizzolotti. Look to that. Want to see it once more? For our field of study, very important. It means that you all showed you have mirror neurons for touch. You put yourself in that guy's place laying there, right? You did. You said, oh, when I was laying there and all 105 spiders creeping over my body, I would go dead. See, she's still so shivering. That's, see? Yeah. Yeah, and Beth too. So we have the capacity in our system, what he undergoes, we undergo too. And I have another video from the guy I work a little bit with, Christian. Geysers. And he has a video of a bare leg, and our students watching, and you see a brush going over that leg. Okay? And the camera goes into the lecture room, and people start scratching their legs. So in touching, you feel the perception of touch of the others. And it took a long time, and I was a little bit thrown off. Because with the mirror neuron from vision, yes, they found a different part, so around the occipital area, scattered. With hearing, yes. But it took a long time, until 1 or 2 years ago, to come up with very fine readings of actually, and then it shows what I understood a little bit, that at different parts of the brain, there are mirror neurons by touch. When this was activated, they could see it on the change in metabolism of that part of the brain system. But not so clear as with the other one. It shows again that touch is a very diverse sense, which has a lot of connections, also with the limbic areas, of course, it's all limbic. But not so easy to detect exactly what part of the brain is responsible, mirror neuron for the legs, one for, the creeping spider is part of that, and so forth. I hope that after, when I'm home, I had approval to have a scholarship for a student who will work with Christian and myself to work this further on, because touch is the basis of our work, isn't it? And Bernadette serves in the committee on touch, and she's pretty much alone by herself. So it is not many people are doing research in this area, not particularly with this group of children. But if it is so important for empathy, for mutual touching, and as you know, touch plays in so many aspects of life a role, then we better know a little bit more about the system. Okay, so that was a little bit about an experiment with the spiders. You won't forget that. Okay? Now, my summary so far is, and now I quote from this guy again, whenever individuals observe an action done by someone else, a set of neurons that code for that action is activated in the observer's motor cortex. The observer is aware of the outcome of the motor act. This means that he understands, without cognitive mediation, what the other is doing or feeling. You understood, without thinking, the terrible position of that man having spiders over his body. See, I put that in bold. Without cognitive thinking, immediately you sympathize with him. Aha. So emotions, and see if someone else is pinched or caressed or loved. Mirror and feeling these emotions is on the basis of your own social and emotional life. Suppose you don't have, or they are not developed, mirror neurons for touch, you will not be taken by a mother touching gently the baby. You won't feel anything. Can you understand this? There's a very, your criminologist is speaking, huh? That people, for dealing with psychopaths, what I'm doing now, are very interested in this theory. And what are people with autism? So but I'm just a humble little man from Holland. I think this world of mirror neurons opened up a whole new thinking about autism, about psychopaths, no feeling, and on the other hand, trying to stimulate this in people, in blind people and deafblind people. Now, for whom did I buy this? I'm sorry. For Nova. Nova lives across me. And 3.5 years ago now, I saw Marielle, her mother, being pregnant. And he said, "How are you this day?" And Baba, "You're still traveling?" "Yeah." I say, "I'm studying the mirror neurons of vision and so forth." Oh, she said, "Very interesting, sir. But what can I do for you?" You would like to have such a name, wouldn't you? I said, "I would like you to do it, to deliver the baby." He said, "That's what I'm going to do, no problem." And at between 4 and 8 weeks, allow you to do a few tricks with me. He said, "Okay." I asked my husband, because you never know what's going to happen. So, after 7 weeks, my friend and I was there with the camera. And there's Nova. And there's Marielle, the mother. And right. So, came out to talk. But I said, let's take break. Don't say anything and show your face above the crib or whatever the child was. Okay. Still not good, but see, the mother did not set the model again, just presenting her face, and the hippocampus remembered that pleasurable experience. And there it came out. My God. Okay. The hands. Can children of 7 weeks put out a thumb? According to the test I'm using a long time, Lisette Bergine was 2.5 years, you could ask to do this, I think. No, you can do that if you know about mirror neurons at 7 weeks. Watch. I asked the mother to stop. And she starts working on it. Yep. Little finger. Thumb. Venchklist. Open, close. Finger out. See. Open, close, finger out. Shall we put up now our little man of yesterday? Really a fresh bakery, huh?
Okay, here we go. Sorry about that.
Need to go back to the beginning.
Nope, he wanted me to, it starts at 3:20, so should be
Okay.
set there. Sorry about that.
See, I'm swaying. A sound on it, but forget about it. Back and forth. Same thing, huh? Here. Look at this. Oh. See if I remember them. Yeah. Move back and forth. Yeah, remembers it. See the fingers? You will see in another clip too that after you have done this, they give you a lot of eye contact like he's doing. Okay. So you saw a similar thing between him and Nova. And I make, there was no sound. Ah, 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 oh, 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 oh. So, and he starts mirroring. What do you think when you do that? Every day, twice. And you have a session of 10 minutes like that.
You get more response,
You get a lot of response.
interaction.
And he will smile with you. And he will follow your hands. And he sits always with his finger in his mouth. Not when I was mirroring. He puts it out and uses it out. Yeah. It always works. It always works. Whoever I have, I make them follow me and they forget about imitation, but just resonate with me. Don't talk to me now, huh? I'm with you now. I'm with you now. I wait until we both get the it feeling, right? Okay, now we start. Oh, he cannot balance. Yes, he can. And he can wave. Think on the drummer boy. Think on the drummer boy. Everybody say he cannot. No, he waves. And you close his hand. And you say, finish, finish. You go straight into communication. Straight into communication. And it always works. I have not come across. It can be 20-year-old, can be 41. It always works. Once you know how to connect. Yeah. You stare at me if you see a ghost. What do you think? Because you have a lot of experience with your boy. I want to have your thinking.
I think that the interaction is really important, and
The what?
I think the interaction is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
important, and the kids really engage in that. And yeah, I can remember seeing things like that from the time that Michael was an infant. And
You did or you did
I
not?
did.
Yeah, you did. It's always there. It's always there. Always there. The minor twitching of the face. But you can see, that's my theory, when you do not boost the growth of this system of resonancing, of empathy, of laughing, then it dies out. What will happen when this empathy mirror neurons will die out? Because no stimulation. You might have autism. You might have autism. Do we have evidence for that? Yes, otherwise I would not tell you. Nothing there to make my stories. We come back. Okay. All right? So we saw Nova, and she gets the present. Well, if you please contradict me, no doubt I think how important the activation of the visual and the motor neuron system is, as you saw in Isaac. I activated both the vision and the motor. I looked to him and smiled, etc. The foundation for motor and visual learning, in particular of imitation, are very much dependent from mirror neuron system. I said to several teachers and parents during one of the trips, I said, if once your child is going to imitation, you don't need me anymore. You have done your job. Now everybody can do it. But leading from that resonance, step by step, to imitation, really the child then at a conscious level imitates you, follows you, etc. That is the big need in our field. That's what I think. At least I don't know a book which describes it. If you do, please tell me. I am the first one to buy that book. Through the system, Nova will understand emotions because she imitates the frowning of the mother's emotions. Oh, you have a stinky diaper. With the voice. And with that, she mirrors the mother's emotions. In naming and showing the expression on the face. And that's what we are doing now with deaf convicts in Austria. Exactly what we're doing. They cannot name, only angry and happy, but nothing in between. And they cannot read the faces. Or they read it in a different way. And then the amygdala plays up. So my approach with my friends in Austria is, could we, by naming our emotions with the physical expression, and the person mirror it, and getting the words or the signs or even a picture at the same time, are we approach the heart of our problem? Or children who don't want to communicate are called autistic. Sometimes they are, I'm sorry to say. Are you buying this, madam? Okay, thank you. Don't say anything more. Yes, I am. In Holland, you always, Bernadette, you always, yes, I am, but, right? We always get but. That was a nice presentation. Oh, yeah, it was a but. Oh, my gosh, I'm in Holland. Is that not so?
Yeah, it's always the beginning of this.
Always. I like that but. Okay. Give me the broom and sweep me in the corner. They are hopeless. Yeah, that's different from here. Huh? So different from here. Yeah, there's always if and but when, and you think you know better, and you came from a little country, and no, not here. Yeah, here we have it again. Mirror is responsible for the joint attention as shown in the drummer boy. Huh? Remember the drummer boy when I did yesterday with that kid, huh? The 20-year-old one pouring the glasses, huh? The other, that you have the tape. She didn't do anything before. Vocational training, no. She had only, and we were pouring, and I was her coach. I poured the glasses, all over the place. And I applauded, went back, put napkins underneath. She just followed me. And I prevented, said, no, put a napkin in there, no, there, no, there. No pointing. Even for adults at a very low cognitive level, you can get them doing what we used to call coactive, but it's resonating. You resonate with. They follow you. And be aware. She laughs at you, you give her. She's hung up on this bloody rewards. Because some guy has just wanting her to put something, give her a reward. And the amygdala has said, yes, I want the nucleus accumbens wants to have a reward all the time. And that drives everybody. It's like getting like this. But when you resonate with her, move along, show the face, putting things, pouring, you're pouring. Beth, you saw it, right? You saw it. Make your comment.
I did. I saw it. It's exactly as you said, that she was able to easily follow you.
Yeah. Yeah. I followed him, followed her. When she's bending over, I was bending over, moving back and forth, so we did together. And she loved it. And the father said, when we had here 150 cups, and you would look, she would know it, even when we would left her. Right. Say, is that not a wonderful worker? She can call it miracle worker. Look at that girl was doing nothing, scribbling. Resonate. Follow the visual mirror neurons. You all witnessed it. You all witnessed it. You are okay? You look a little bit pale. So we have the empathy, mirror neuron for empathy. Behavior imitation nova. Yes. Language. When all the system, the three mirror neuron system, it's growing evidence. Persons with ASD in an imitation task, as I just has told you, in an imitation task, and particular facial where the face was involved in autistic individuals and controls, the following thing was found. In emotional expression, doing very nice imitation task, you see in a typical developing group, that's the top group, you see how much brain activity is involved in following people's expression. You do it. With you following my expression, you are on the top. And look how limited this is with the ESD group. And then under you see the group comparison, the differences between both groups. But look to the top A and look to B. And these are high functioning. They are Asperger's. In imitation. So in expression of emotional faces, postures, so much of the limbic area triggers the frontal parts of the body, and when there is hearing involved, of course, the temporals are. See, we are really in fire when we have to imitate. And even in these people, significant limitations in, and that is what the researchers in this area think explains about 25% of autism at this moment. So a dysfunctioning of the mirror neuron system, about 25. Yes. I leave you with a question. Why are there so many deafblind kids with autistic tendencies? You think about it. But hopefully I've given you the answer. And the coffee will boost up a lot of your cells. I'm right back after this message. Okay. So this autism spectrum disorder intrigues me very much already, along with blindness and, we try to develop some sort of test screening things and so forth to distinguish between the two groups. And unfortunately, the research stopped because the lady in charge got seriously ill. But from the 10, 15 candidates we did, and I was the reviewer and watching the tapes, yes, you have to say that sometimes in the groups of both of vision and deaf and blind and deafblind, there's quite a group of kids, adults belonging to the spectrum, and since we know now that mirror neurons plays a part of it, could that be explained in this group? Okay. Well, there is a group which has been studied intensively, a little bit older, by Kaz and a lady Sankson in the UK. And they had 32 kids with labor amaurosis. And with labor amaurosis, the vision deteriorates. Okay. But in some children, there is a little bit left of face recognition. Underline that word. And in the other ones, they are completely blind, and when the face is shown, no reaction whatsoever. Small group, but same etiology. And it was shown that the ones who have no face recognition at all, they lacked joint attention, imitation, and understanding that words refer to an object, referential language. And look to the difference between both groups. The chance that it is just luck is 1 out of 10,000. This makes me think along the lines when a child, a blind, a deafblind child, has the little mini vision, and you think of developing the mirror neurons for empathy, use it. Use it. Make an outline of your face, what I'm doing, with a marker. Yes. Put it above your eyebrows. Smile as a clown. Make everything with the minor left vision. Light perception is enough. Make that available. And play with it. And talk. I am so happy, so happy. But yesterday I was sad. But then the postman ring. Ring, ring, ring. Who's there? puzzling face. Who's there? The milkman. We don't know milk today. Oh. About blind. How do you do this with touch? With hearing, you can do a lot. I would go on with touch. Oh, knock, knock, knock. The postman did, and I said, no. No milk today. No milk. So I would accompany my speech completely with touch. That will be now a new curriculum with Jerry Petrov. I'm going to try to write that out. Would that make sense? The lucky thing is that only 5% of our population is completely deaf and blind, in my definition, which is no definition. Yeah? So this, I found it pretty convincing from the studies of Patricia Songson about these two groups. Oh. Now, I don't want to make it too complicated, but going again back to the complete visual people who have never seen, completely blind people, huh? But have input of language. You all know the sound of people scraping a car, huh? To get a dent out, scraping the car. And when we hear that on a Saturday morning, and finally, we can visualize that person working there, yeah? Now, having this scraping in a scanner with us, the visual cortex in the occipital areas is working, gets the most, flares up. Oh. Now they have blind people, never seen scraping, but they have heard, that's a tough job, scraping a car like that. They have heard that, not seen. In the scanner. Facial cortex flares up. They have activation of a visual image in the cortex they had never seen. You explain that to me. You explain that to me. It's unbelievable research they're doing in this area on blind people. So it is possible still to stimulate, to develop visual mirror neurons because they put themselves in the place of the scraping person being completely blind. Nobody believed me before these fMRI studies came along. Yeah.
So, how do blind people know what the sound means? Probably, or someone has explained it to them when they heard the sound, or they have felt it happening when they heard the sound. How do they know the meaning of that sound? Or is it regardless the meaning of the sound?
Yeah, all the way through daily life, they hear people doing things. Apparently, they've been told that is a tiring experience. Scraping a car. They know what tired is. And they have built up a concept of a person scraping, doing this tiring business. That's fine. People, blind people can. But the surprising thing is that that is not located in the auditory or even not in the tactual mirror neuron system, but in the visual ones. That is the surprising thing. That we still, when we have access to language, when we are explaining what's going on, visual mirror neurons. And so when they hear that was a sad face, they will experience visually a sad face. Yep. That's what we know now since a few years. That's what I said in the beginning. Here we have an example. How loss of vision reorganizes different your system. Therefore, Tim, my last PhD student is a psychiatrist in deaf. And I'm reading now her chapter on medication of deaf and deafblind. I know to cry, but I cry. How none of the medical profession, none, is aware of that, which had the effect, of course, on our system. And the effect of medication is shocking, different. According to the protocol they think they are following. Sometimes with minor thing, enormous effect. Sometimes with big things, no effect. Rebound effects, everything. The first thing I do when I come home, I have a meeting with Ines. I said, you should put that really, we got already an article in British Medical Journal, in the Lancet. That should be. And she had picked me as one of her supervisors because of the research my son and Mo did in and seeing. That's a different way, and this part of it, that the brain and the responses, the triggering of hormones, and everything is different in those guys. And they feed them medication like that. And she described the side effects. It's gone through hundreds of files of deaf and deafblind people. And that makes you cry. In Holland, where there's a better medical system, does not exist at this moment. Together with Denmark and Finland, but that's so. I said to her, because we are working a lot together, I said, Ines, I can understand that. I see that in blind people, it's a completely different way we thought blind people are. There's nothing, They have a visual cortex which work. They have how they see visual images, I don't know. But the brain responds whether as a sighted person. Yeah.
The comment. You know Jude Nicholas.
Oh, yes, very well.
And Jude talks about how when you're not using your optic nerve that is taken over by the auditory system and vice versa, if you're deaf, your auditory nerve system is taken over by the visual. So you wonder whether the person's hearing the scraping, it's directly stimulating the optic nerve because that is now in service of the auditory system.
I would not, after I've gone through now, that taking over. that is only for what there is evidence now is only for minor things. That in deaf people, only their peripheral sense could be shown in their system. That's superior. But I don't think I'll drop that taking over by in my waste paper basket. It's not that. It is a complete reorganization of the brain, in particular the limbic areas. Complete reorganization. It's not that they are superior on touch. My son wrote that, it's taking, the sense of touch. And his professor said, don't jump to conclusions which you will regret. Leave it as it is. But I think it is not the fact.
I don't think it's superior. I think it's stimulating.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it stimulates the visual nerve.
Yeah.
So so it's stimulated. I don't think it's making anything superior.
Yeah.
But the auditory system stimulating the optic nerve.
Is the auditory cortex taken over, or does the auditory cortex grow into the visual cortex if it's not being used, or does the visual cortex simply atrophy?
See, that taken over thing is already difficult to start with because the architecture of the visual area is different from the auditory area. So that was always as a little thing, etc. I think that other areas, mainly limbic areas, as amygdala and hippocampus, they develop stronger. And I think, if I'm permitted to go on, I think in 5 years we can show that in rats. That's the first thing we'll start with. But it's a very intriguing question. Huh? So they visualize, they see the whole thing. And I think it goes through the hypothalamus, of course. I don't know about the optic nerve. So, because you are, Judith is one, if you work with these people, these Italian guys, they are so interested in your work, but said, we don't know about these people. We have selected a few capable blind, and that's what we are doing. But your guys, deaf, blind, we don't know anything about that. So we have to walk a little bit as a blind person in the dark. But it changes our thinking. Well, how would that work? We are not doing here a course in psychology. We're doing here about helping these kids. So I'm sitting there and studying and going to courses and be a little student again. Do my experiment in Austria, but I have kids wherever I go. Let's see whether you like this. This is Mr. CVI. That means 99% of his time, he's walking and looking, and if you don't provide him with a source of light, he whacks against his wheelchair and he becomes very upset. That are the cases I get, huh? Okay. What happens, like with the little charge pack guy, all the time, when they mirrored, he put them out. Okay. Well, that's Jaap. I got his face, okay? Now. Zwaaien, 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 zwaaien. Heel mooi, ja. Okay. Mother?
Overal is wat te zien voor Jaap.
Everywhere you can see things.
Jaap is zo blij.
You're so happy.
Ja, Jaapie is zo blij. Ja. Zie je maar hoe blij dat Jaap is vanmorgen, hè? Zo blij is hij, hè? Wauw.
And look what I have in my hands. Open my hands. And here. Instant. I got it. Going. You follow me? 99%, as you see, staring outside. Little Sophie was a real American father last year. She's following my rhythm. And the nicer thing is that when I was sitting in the back of the room, making sounds in a rhythm, following the little girl, father following too. It's of course natural. A little bit. And it's mirroring the same thing as in Jaap with this girl. It causes pleasurable feelings. And look to the girl who watches his father's face for responses. Never done before. See the dad. In the mirror, there's 6 basic human emotions should be presented. Excited, happy, sad, angry, scared, and tender. But all ecstatic, energetic, aroused, bouncy, nervous, perky, antsy. In our voice, in our face, in using these words, we mirror, we radiate the feelings going with it. Now, it's mainly also because of Bernadette's work. There's a program There's a program developed by Bernadette, and this is called Contact. After she left us, the program was not left alone, but a colleague of us did some research on that. What's the effect of the program? And she did several studies on that, and I was part of it as a co-author. But then again, my very mathematical son, I looked in his data, can you see us both working? And I looked, when I was working on that study, and he said, when I compare all these studies, there is one element which comes up all the time. I said, oh yes, he said. That is when the intervener shares the emotion, it adds the most to the initiative and the willingness to interaction and so forth. That is the clip, that is the approach which does it. And better than that, of course, as the author can tell much more about the program, which I think has enormous potential, but should have a little bit boost. And you can only see it is a little bit too short a clip, but you see that this deaf-blind adolescent, where it come from Pakistan or that, I know that I enrolled him in that time, I was there. And he was prompt dependent, wasn't he? Waiting. You all know those guys, called learned helplessness, but they sit there for ages. And before he stood up, he has to have a garment, etc. And it could be shown that through sharing his emotions, which is mirroring, in a single subject study, his initiative increased from 20 to 50% of baseline, which is, by gosh, enormously. You all knew that it was a very important approach, right? But that's good that we stand on each other's shoulders. That is what. And now it's been found that it is that which carries the program. I have only a small clip. Does not connect. Finally, when he removed his socks or whatever, he's invited to stand up, and at that moment, and that's the only thing which where the intervener expressed her happiness by tickling him a little bit, moving his body back and forth. And apparently she did that, according to the program, every morning, I suppose, huh?
Yeah, it was upon that Hisham
Yeah.
laughed just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And she affirmed him in a more, sorry, and she affirmed him in a bigger way.
Yeah.
His emotion.
So she took over, she mirrored his emotion to stay in, she mirrored her emotion. And apparently, this, you know, I enjoy, not at a cognitive level, you know, but at a personal level, apparently that sharing of emotions triggered and did a job. Because, as mentioned, and it's a very careful study, his independent behavior, checking the initiative he took, improved significantly. That what was it. So I've chosen this because it affirms my Bernadette's work, my work, affirms that, like in Jaap, like in the little Sophie, like in him, emotionally mirroring your empathy, your feeling of respect, your joy, as I always do, brings a connection between you and the child. And then without any prompt training or fading or backward chaining and all the techniques, of course, we are familiar with, to the surprise, and I went back to the original work, we discussed that last night, went back to the original work because I felt that where I'm now, I understand better where they were 10 years ago. I understand now the success and what to do and what not to do by my thinking about mirror neurons. And you're stuck with all those guys who, for whatever reasons, are lacking any initiative. And I'm sure there are, you know, some of them know behavior method better than I. Rewards, encouragement, chaining, and you all name it, but the end of the game is that no big improvements happening. The thing is that through mirror neurons of emotions, there was this improvement and was continued 6-12 months. That's the part of it. Sometimes the interveners forgot to do it because they all go back after training, they regressed what they had used to do. All of them. That's regression is our biggest way to improve the program. Because after you've been here, you start doing things differently. But when I come back in a year, I'm sorry to say, there's a big chance that you'll be back where you were. Because your environment is still doing the same thing, and you know, you have the tendency to regress. Unless you get a lubrification. Unless there is somebody always to say, remember, remember. Just that, remember. Otherwise, go back. But that's a sidetrack. So it's very important that from another side, another approach, not differently, but I name it differently, from another angle, that's all what I'm doing today, we saw the enormous impact of even small moments of joy and sharing of emotions. How long? Please make your comments.
I just would like to add one Thank you. I'm sorry. I just would like to add one other result of the study.
Yeah.
What you talked about this morning was that we called it the intensity of the behavior. Over here they call it challenging behavior.
Yeah.
That was decreased enormously.
The challenge in him too. Yeah.
In all the
In
six, all the
students
subjects.
who took part,
yeah, all the
took
six.
part of it. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems that mirroring recognizes of emotions really lowers the alertness of the amygdala. That's what we're trying. Therefore, they are not completely tied up in themselves, venture themselves out, and by the same token, their challenging behavior diminishes. Magnificent results, huh? With little, huh? That's surprising thing. With little, with this guy looking, having, let's say, 5, 2 times 3, 5, laughing together, etc., and opening hands, etc., his light gazing decreased, let's say, with 40, 50%, just by that. Almost impossible to understand. And he was always looking for that game. Because that's enjoyable. When somebody listens to you and does the same thing as you do, instead of commanding you what to do, hold the crayon, don't look this, you know. Well, we learn perhaps. So unfortunately, this little clip, I don't know, we have a little bit problem this afternoon, but touch in everyday activities are not, in blind people and deaf blind people, are not sufficient to activate the neural neuron. So you have to do that more intensively, and underhand and overhand, and to read his other mind. And now I got a very interesting example. To read each other's mind, to read the face. Last year I was, I think, in Toronto, parents, and they had to play The Miracle Worker. And I noticed, of course, I watched the play, and I saw that Helen Keller, because she was a difficult lady, a difficult child, in the beginning, was touching Anne Sullivan's face when she was angry, or when she was happy, touching, and then went to herself, trying to model the face. And I thought, that's a liberty of the author. So after the play, I said, shall I tell you what? I have shaken hands with Helen Keller in 1963, Perkins. But is that touching, controlling, getting feedback from the facial, is that what your director or director? No, she said, that's what we have read in the diary. For heaven's sakes. I've missed that because I read in that time with different eyes. It says that after Macy, teacher, has become angry or enjoyed enormously the party they are having, I always felt teacher's face, and I asked her to pretend to be angry or happy again. And there we have, from a complete different angle, the same clue. Why do this enormous hero of a woman, having so deep feelings and respect, I think Because on intuition, she managed to activate her mirror neuron system. Well, you can say you draw something into your own theory, VanDyk. Okay, I accept that. I accept that. But for a good cause, isn't it? Really a challenge to develop intervention strategies, to applying resonance, and I've given as many examples as I could, for hearing, for touch, and for vision. And my hypothesis is that will help the child to reach the level of imitation. Through mutual touching, to support the development of empathy. I think if I had a deafblind child now, say that little charge kid, he has vision, he has hearing, but like the most have, suppose he's so completely, I would sit here and I would touch him and say, "You are a nice boy, a nice boy, a nice boy. I love you very much, I love you very much." Touching my head, feeling me, touching me, inviting him to touch and to hold me. See if there's a that we get this mutual caressing going. What would you think about that? Such silly ideas. Because if you don't, you know, what we have learned today, if you don't activate that system, it dies out. No initiative, no empathy, withdrawn in themselves, challenging behaviors. Unfortunately, but I have not a representative sample which I see here, but I see many of those wherever I go. Many, many, many. Of whom I think, and that also counts for the 81s I see in our country, we in no way have met their potential. In no way, no. We didn't know better, we tried hard, we went the wrong way, we went the good way, and we lacked support from what is happening really in the brain, what can support us. But now we have it, and I think we should do a little bit about it. And it requires so much from yourself as a person. As a person, you must be able to activate very deep, intensive biochemical process in yourself and in your child, like a mother does with the child. But we all are human beings, don't forget that. We all are human beings, so why don't we try it? A lot of parents try. I think what we know now is the mirror neurons are the foundation for the growth of the social life. So, what? Oh, I'm not finished yet. I have another one. I start again. Oh, don't worry about that. As I said in the morning, 80% of the information reaches the brain via the senses and has emotional value. Well, what I try to say today, in sharing emotions, I contribute in my best way to the quality of life. And my definition of quality of life is the shortest one there is, and you see it here, and you question me when you don't like it, are moments of joy. Moments of joy. Is that when they have a day and there are no moments of joy, is it let it pass by. But when you have laughed, when you have enjoyed yourself, when you felt good about things, which you did, of people you said who complimented you, it feels good. I like this definition because we all want to have evidence-based curriculum. In what? In dressing yourself, in helping your mom, in doing arithmetic, reading a story. All good. But this can be measured. Did we, my student and I, my child and I, today have moments of joy? Is there a smile? Is there a laugh? Is there happiness? Is there really sharing of emotions? Which can be really a moment of joy when you feel that people understand you. So, for the first, I hope I can pull them up. For the first time in my long career, there is one mother in Houston, Texas, who was sitting after her hearing, and I assessed the son, hopefully you see it, around that discussion IP things. And I do that sometimes by Skype. And she said, Dr. VanDyk, Viveka, do you know what we decided upon? Your moments of joy. I said, I want them to check mark everything in this country is dependent on check, 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 check. Until you go dead, check, check, check. Yep. 5 smiles a day. I was sitting there on my little office. She understood. She understood. Challenging boy. He knocked in my face. I'll show that too if I can. But instead of repressing, and you know, repressing does not help. They do. The juvenile court people, they only repress. And there they go again, and they leave the prison and they kill someone. So that's no help. Huh? Let's not talk about those guys. They don't know anything. No. They admit. They are desperate. Suppressing. No. We don't suppress this, Thomas. We share. And he can crush cans and not standing there like that policeman did, but enjoying crushing cans together. Like I did yesterday, crushing cans together. Sharing. Work hard. Play. All the time. And he's blind. Let him feel. Not only tell him, let him feel. Thomas, you're doing well today. We crushed a lot. Okay. That lady is the chairperson of the DB Mat in Texas. I may speak at her conference for the first time about this. She's so convinced about it. And everybody used to be Thomas. Everybody was. I have no magic wand, but I think I have a magic theory. And wait until our studies come on about the 6 psychopaths death in Austria. Every day I get report. Hardly any has committed so far a new crime. by this approach. Okay, the moments of joy, and I think discovery of mirror neurons has a great impact on designing curriculum for children with multiple impairment. I hope you agree on that. That's what I think. I have two more to take home. And the role of the amygdala in the well-being of persons cannot be overestimated. That thing, that little organ, he governs our lives. And finally, the reorganization, the educational implication of the reorganization of the brain of persons with sensory impairment should be pursued in depth. Now, what are your comments, Madam Kathy? You've been very attentive.
I think it's going to make me, when my students, because my students have different impairments, I need to show my student with my face, with taking his hands and put his hands on my face, because he can't see, he has limited vision, what my face feels like when he hits. To share with him, this is a sad face. When you hit, I'm sad.
Yeah.
Because I'm missing that piece.
Yeah.
And I think when I give him that piece, I think we're going to see growth. I know we'll see growth.
Good for you. And you, Madam?
I have a question. Can you describe why touch, as it's used in everyday activities, is not sufficient to activate the MNS?
Yeah.
I'm a little confused about that part. Thank you.
I was also a little confused by that. If you could define what everyday versus working
What'd
with
you say?
deafblind. Oh, if you could define everyday touch versus working with deafblind individuals. I think we tend to touch deafblind individuals more. So do you mean even more than that?
I think there is some empirical evidence on that. I think there is empirical evidence that in handling hands-on, hands-off activities, it produces too little activation. And I would advocate a couple of sessions really devoted on touching each other, touching together, sharing the touching with the emotions. Say you have a nice object together and you would touch it hand over, under and over, and at the same time showing your emotions about a nice shiny surface, and sing and feel, and you do this thing, think, you saw, going to that ball made from glass, you go over it, feeling it, nice, signing it. Have these little things firing in your brain, and it appears that that's not too difficult. It can. But I know in 5 years when my PhD candidate has stroked enough rats, so to find out about the amygdala. But it's a good question. It's a good question. Because, may I say that too many blind and deaf-blind, multisensory impaired kids don't have a warm social life. They was within themselves. Yeah. But I think I put that down after really having some evidence. Better than.
Yes, maybe is it okay if I add something?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. We know that typically, because we are so visual and auditory, that we use our hands to fix things, to make things. We use them, like Barbara says, as tools. So when we do everyday activities, even if we do them hand in hand with the students, we mainly think as touch as tools. And really, when we have blind students and they use graphs, tactile graphs in math or Braille, it still is in a functional manner. And maybe the difference is that the hands are not used in a functional manner and learning by touch in a functional manner, but more using the hands also to share your emotions when you cannot do that visually or auditory.
So the normal touching that we do day to day isn't getting deep enough into the brain?
I think, yes, as visual auditory people, we are less aware of it. And when we are with blind students, especially hand on the hand, you become more aware of it, probably, if you really listen to their hands. But then it is still a difference. Even if you become more aware, then it's still a difference if you do functional things, getting things done, or using the hands and feeling the textures and the temperature and the tension and all of that to express and feel emotions and affirm each other and then share the emotions. So that is, that's just.
A part of your agreement I had with Beth was to talk and show you a little bit about what we do about the most devastating factor in our lives, that is stress. As I mentioned in between, I worked a long time in Russia, and there you find the most unfavorable situation for kids. And I hope when the next video comes on, you will try that first. No. See, I'm really having bad luck, huh? Why is that, for heaven's sake? Makes me a little bit upset. I'll try it once more. We describe stress, the feeling of the individual unable to cope with the situation of daily life. A general feeling of not being under control and feeling helplessness. He was thrown into that institution by his foster father just after 2 days we were there, so we were able to film this. Okay? He's severely visually impaired child, hearing loss, and with the most unfavorable situation you can be born in. In Russia, father an alcoholic and mother being unable to cope, as understandably, with the situation. Beaten up. He's Kirill. Born prematurely, very bad situation. Pure despair, his dad, foster dad, dropped him, and the filming. When I continue this terrible clip further, you will see that when a person approaches him, he would immediately put his arms in front of him. Because he knows every person, amygdala, he will beaten up. So, that's a challenge, isn't it? He had the most unfavorable situation you can talk of. As a baby, born with a mother, very stressful in Russia. It's the worst country where you live. High level of hormone in mother and child, right from the beginning. And they have atypical levels of cortisol. I'll speak about that at length. And the whole situation was very aroused, agitated, which caused, of course, challenging behaviors. He had to be on his toes for the whole day, like a lot of foster children. Huh? Yes. Foster children have atypical cortisol levels because they never know what's going to happen during the day. And when you approach them, they might already. Foster children. It's not easy for them. When you are deafblind, no threats, people go and come, difficult communication, an enormous problem for it, no it, development of attachment disorders. What are the typical symptoms? Increasing stereotypes when they are excited, self-abuse when sudden changes, and withdrawal of tasks when they become too complex or asking continuously help. It can be assumed that in these kids, there are two types of hormones to make them survive. Adrenaline, the heart rate increases, less sensitive to pain, they bang, and we all say, why don't they feel it? No, because the adrenaline is boosted in their system. And they become very strong. They overthrow a table, a cupboard, because all the blood and the oxygen goes to the muscles. We all are familiar. How is possible a little boy like that overthrown that chest part of that chest? And production of cortisol. Well, we need cortisol when we have to cope with the situation. And because it stimulates the glucoses, and we are not hungry when we are stressed, because the cortisol takes energy away from our digestive system. When we are very excited and nervous, we are not going to have a meal. That doesn't fit. We need all the energy to go to somewhere else. And in order to help the body from collapse, by sending hormones to the adrenaline gland to suppress for further. At the one moment, you get so overexcited and you can do things. Jump from the Empire State Building or hold yourself and ask your system, your adrenaline gland, to stop production of cortisol. Well, prolonged periods of stress impairs your well-being, impairs your learning, and lead to severe behavior problems. Do we have a key, VanDyk, for those guys? First of all, let's measure. Is it so, and in what circumstances, and happens everywhere when you have people with deafblindness, that they are so overstressed. Yeah, this can be done. And I'll show you the results. It used to be that taking a little bit swab from your cheek was costly, and the computers were making a lot of mistakes, but no longer. You can have, not easy though, reliable results by measuring cortisol. Our researchers, if this is, let's say, the devil of our work, doing this, are people in the world measuring the cortisol in the group we are focusing on? Yes, we do. I know of 3 research studies. Altogether, 14 kids. The first one is of a great lady from the Netherlands, born in South Africa, Paula Sturkenborg. In her dissertation, 3 subjects were blind, adults, adolescent, 2 severely visually impaired, with severe challenging behaviors. I tell you that. Throwing, biting, you know, whole rate. 4 times a day and at night, she took saliva samples to measure cortisol. It could be shown in this group of people that with a sample of typical children whose cortisol can be read on the internet, they were irregular and particularly like in the morning. So these blind kids were very agitated already in the morning, at their toes. Amygdala, what's going to happen today? And if you are approaching me, I bite you in the arm. And this study was carried out by her to show the effect of intervention. She's a great lady, and she did it all herself. And she applied the principles of attachment, meaning play. She took those guys and this couple ladies to her playroom, and she made contact with them. I have the videos of that. It's not funny. In the beginning, I applied the same principle. When I still have a red ear, I made contact with the boy. And he was, I didn't do anything. As long as I can stand, no response. No, that's the first guy who doesn't throw me away and doesn't give me, no. I sit there, pulling, scrubbing. It happens only once or twice. You break through that circle of when you do something, push you up, or they put on your arm splints. They came arm splints here. Yeah. I said, take them off. No, he starts hitting you. No, he doesn't hit me. Take them off. I got once. And that's it. I don't respond. Paula did it. Wow. And she built up through play, through activity, through cooking, through smelling, peeling an orange, a relationship. And her student, she's now a professor in Amsterdam, and her student measured the challenging behaviors. And you look to her dissertation. And hand in hand, the cortisol levels became more regular. Good for you, Paula. We visited Kathy Nelson, my good, on a awful winter day, her in Amsterdam. And I said, Paula, can you help us? This has been published a week ago. At least the Journal for Exceptional Children has accepted for publication. I do a lot with Kathy Nelson from Utah. And she had also a bunch of abnormal levels of stress, refusal to participate, crying and yelling, and then another phenomenon that they freeze. They don't do anything and stand still there, and aggression towards others. They all are clear symptoms of stress, of course. The cortisol level was measured every time after one of these behaviors, aggression, yelling, grinding teeth. He took within a half hour a swab of saliva of the cheeks. But one guy apparently did not like that, so she has to drop him. And the baseline level showed the degree of challenging behaviors. So, what was the intervention? Introducing more strictly calendars, anticipation, preparing for a new event, routines, offering proximity, and sharing of emotions. I hope you have heard this before. It could be shown that during the intervention phase, the challenging behaviors decrease significantly. Accordingly, cortisol measured during baseline are shown in the following figure. So they are pretty normal. Pretty normal when this program was used. However, and there you cannot get away from it, with that boy she named, what, Akil? No, Alec. This one, and that's why I showed it up, you see here an enormous peak of stress. What was that? That was when the intervener quitted without notifying them. So all of a sudden, he had no secure base anymore. And wow, this cortisol level shot up like crazy. Very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. But also very interesting that you can keep the measures by a good program down. Show you again. Okay? In child number 3 is a more irregular pattern right from the beginning. Unexpected leave of the care for labor. A study of Katie Blooming, 6 deafblind children and adults who I helped to select. Many were our previous students, and cortisol levels were measured over a period of week. They were selected because they had undergone early maternal separation. Like I said, we took them from the Dutch island after the rubella epidemics. It was hypothesized that this very, very terrible start in life would still contribute to the stress levels. And here you go to our surprise. Normal. All in the beginning, in the morning, a little bit alertness, but the participants, and these are the controls, the lines of the participant and control are the same thing. Unbelievable. So it seems that having a program, regularity, announcing event, routines, etc., even with the most dreadful circumstances a young kid you ever gone through, all the challenging behaviors we know, diamond and diary, are in this one. I cannot think of something else. And still it is possible to moderate the cortisol level of those guys. It's not, and it's exactly in line, although small studies, what Kathy has found here in Utah. Sometimes, yes, be careful with interpreting. It seems that those people, in establishing a routine program, are not overwhelmed by toxic stress. They have developed coping mechanisms. For instance, it seems in the study that stereotype behavior, withdrawal and escape, is a coping mechanism for stress. And when you let them do that, okay, you bring them back in the routine again, the cortisol level stays nicely within the day. Particular when this boy came back, when this boy with Adil Axil, providing a child with an attachment figure who is sensitive for the child's signals and share his emotions, had the largest impact on lowering their cortisol and making the routines of the day surveyable by using a calendar system. Attachment, having one person to go for in your life, seems, as we are now studying these kids, the strongest buffer against toxic stress. We have seen London, we have seen him. There's another Dutch study on charge. Didn't she talk to you, Wilvaart? You talked to you, eh? Yeah, I know. I remember that she was been here. Interesting study too. She reports that 59% of parents with charge were, now we're talking about parents, were highly stressful. But it was an interesting finding that the parent stress, no relationship could be found between the speaking or the non-speaking children, between the level of intellectual disability, whether or not the child was deafblind, the gender and the age of the child. But stress in parents was correlated with behavioral problems of their child, depression, autism, and being self-absorbed. And you have here the correlation figure, see, and it shows that the top 4 behaviors cause the most stress feelings in parents of children with charge. Depression, disruptive behaviors, self-absorbed autism, and when you add that together, it is 40%, a correlation of 42%. 0.42. So, again, it's not so much the communication, and not parents and teachers find a way, but when they see that the child is not having moments of joy. When the life for the child is sour, bitter, unhappy, no one showing, because for a long time psychiatrists thought that severely impaired children could not be depressive. Oh my gosh, they can. They can be there. But you see, when the child is not thriving, not being happy, nothing to go for. And I know why, of course. Explain that for you the whole day. That determines for a great deal parent stress and unhappiness and feeling of being hopeless. Yeah. I think for these depressive guys with a lot of anxiety, my recommendation is management-based behavior management, yes, on the principle of attachment and to make more clear what you want, what the day routine is, etc. Aha. The last thing. What happens to Kirill? How did I, for heaven's sake, help to solve the problem with Kirill in Russia? That's the guy, video at the beginning, huh? Too close to finish. I said to the director, Galina, do you have grandmas on your staff? She says a lot, because retired people in Russia have to work because the government has stolen away their pension, particularly when you were in the military and so forth. So they work there, and high-level people. Such a lady can have a doctorate in physics, easily. They work for $100 a month. So I checked and talked to this lady in blue. I hope the video will come up. And she said, everybody knows Kirill by that time. Let's see if the video plays before I do anything else. No. Why is that for heaven's sake? No. It played. Right? Anyhow, you will see the situation. They are both painting glass. Painting the glass. And at the same time, on top of the drawers, is a radio playing. He likes the music. And the lady is painting rhythmically on the glass. He likes that. You know that? And the lady is speaking, so when the music stops a little bit, in Russian, very nice words to it. And she's been told not to take any initiative, because then immediately amygdala could be triggered and say, there's another person who's going to beat me up. But I have this recording after they painted together like I did. He creeps under the armpit of this lady. And they walk out like this. What happened to Kirill? What happens when you know about a good theory, which can be put in practice? He's from the Ukraine. He left that place, but I still look a little bit after him. The saying is, I feel that I rush a little bit through, but the saying is, with the cortisol levels, and with this story about Kirill, even the worst condition we can dream of for our children can be relieved. I might even say restored by doing the right things, having the right person, and as a little bit scientific thinker, having the right theory. There's a Swiss colleague of ours who say, there is nothing more practical than a good theory. Thank you for coming so much. I hope you enjoyed today. And sorry for that. I don't know what it is. It worked so far, but so far so good. I did my best to give you my story. Okay, Beth? Yeah. I'm off now. No, more 5 minutes, yeah?
Thank you, Dr. VanDyk.